This is April Schulthies, using the computer to generate this message. I am uploading this as documentation. I am documenting a murder. Murder goes on daily and is disguised as natural causes, accidents, and old age. If you've ever read an Agatha Christie book, this will not come as a surprise to you. However, what might come as a surprise is that you yourself who are targeted for murder, and the murderers are in a vast network that supports them, so they get away with it. This is documentation in case I die. It is not a natural death. I was targeted for murder. These predators are in a vast network, often called the New Order, and they select victims to be put down, exactly as if you were an animal, in a secret euthanasia. This is what I've uncovered, after years of suffering. Here is my documentation. In brief, I was raised with a general Christian background. I knew nothing about witchcraft, and I was treated like garbage my whole life. Although I was hardworking, and a straight-A student, I was treated like dirt. I even earned and paid for a bachelor's degree and master's degree, but I still was treated like garbage. I was not a member of any secret society, and did not know I had been relegated to the slave class. I found out about the mass mind in my 20s by reading books by Joseph Murphy. Before that, I had only heard vague references, which I thought were psychobabble. I tried to join Christian prosperity ministries, and I was studying when the second coming would happen in my 30s. A psychic predator representing himself as the Lord started talking to me on the astral plane as I read my scriptures, telling me what to think. In my 40s, I got dragged back into a bad church by the Lord, who was really a human talking to me on the astral plane using hypnosis and psychic attack. Then the attacks became sexual in nature on the astral plane. I am still a virgin, and they were trying to drag me into some kind of sexual sin, so that their efforts to kill me could be supported officially. I didn't know any of this. I just wanted to avoid fornication and adultery. I was being treated badly at work. I still do not know how many people were pretending to be the Lord on the astral plane to destroy me, but it was probably quite a few, women as well as men, which I discovered later during exorcism. I started exorcism again outright in my 50s, after my assailant identified himself as someone at work, whom the Lord had designated to consider as my husband. I am unmarried. One of my brothers was already dead, in his 30s. My niece was dead in her 20s. Then another brother was dead in his 50s. He was 2 years older than I was. All hell broke loose after my brother's death. My assailant at work said he was the reincarnating Lord with AIDS, and I needed to kill myself in order to reincarnate into a younger couple and be his wife. I pointed out he could divorce his wife if he wanted to marry me. I said I had to stay alive to take care of my dogs. So they poisoned my dogs, all of them, and complained that it took too long. I did not find out until later that my dogs were poisoned. 2 died in 1 week, and I was too numb to fight off the Lord, who was saying it was because one dog was lonely for the other, but it was poison. My dogs were poisoned. I was still fighting. In response to the attempts to kill me by the Lord, I started exorcism in earnest. Again, I had tried it before, and they kept coming, but I fought harder this time, giving up eating meat for the second time, throwing out secular music again, and staying in scripture as much as possible. This was in my 50s. My assailant was at my workplace. I was demoted at work. I kept up the exorcism. I tried to warn others on my old YouTube channel, 8th Day 2. The attacks increased. Covered it. There were open threats on my life. Thinking I was only trying to fight off one black occultist, I kept fighting. His friends showed up. Then a large group at work and at church. Then larger groups. Government. Business. In fact, an entire network in the New Order, using hypnosis to attack victims who did not know it. It's a secret combination, otherwise known as secret societies, all combined in one network. I was still a virgin, so they used COVID to take away my job. They cut my medical benefits while I was sick, and stole my 6 months of sick leave, my 4 months of vacation, and the week of holiday pay I had already worked for. They blocked my 403b funds and retirement. They cut my phone. They cut my internet. They cut my power. They sabotaged my cars, again and again. They did not stop sabotaging the cars, even when I tried to get them to stop by posting videos about it. They even sent themselves a self-same-day message, authorizing the attacks. And they cut my furnace twice, with self-same-day messages. This one was on day 8, which may pertain to my YouTube channel, 8th Day 2. During this time, I received astral plane invitations that ranged from joining Satan directly, to joining one of these secret societies. I refused it all. The persecution was tremendous, and it continues. Businesses were lying outright to me, and refusing to provide services I had paid for. I am still being persecuted. When I catch them, my attackers say on the astral plane that of course they are taking pot shots at me. They mean they are continuing the murder attempts. They use hypnosis and strong-arm tactics to reduce their victims to nothing. Praying to know what was going on, I found out they are based on a quasi-biblical system, using spiritual law to excuse what they are doing, but actually breaking it. They came after a virgin in Israel. They tried to drag me into sexual sin so they could get support to murder me. Failing to drag me into sexual sin, which they are engaging in themselves constantly as predators, they tried to murder me anyway. It was very protracted, and it hasn't stopped. I tried to fight off one black occultist, and instead of receiving help and support, I was singled out for destruction. This is vast, and they are claiming they are on the throne of David, while breaking God's laws. This is April Schulthies, a victim of genocide. Many others are victims of genocide, too, including Jews, Muslims, Africans, Native Americans, and Mexicans. This is Rome. Rome doesn't value life. Mexicans are dying on the border every day. The scriptures say, "Show the tokens of virginity, and say these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity, and they shall spread the covenant cloth before the elders of the city. And the elders of that city shall take that man who gave occasions of speech against her, and brought up an evil name upon her, and chastise him, and they shall immerse him in 100 shekels of silver, because he hath brought up an evil name upon a virgin of Israel." California committed genocide against Native Americans. We need to give everything back. In 2019, Governor Newsom talked about healing, but the stolen lands were not returned.